Hello and welcome everyone to Introduction to OneNote 2016. My name is Julie Perrine. I am the founder and CEO of All Things Admin, and I am delighted to welcome all of you to today's live streamed training. And I can't tell you how excited I am to share today's content with you, and then to also share about some upcoming training that we are going to be doing throughout the month of May to dig even deeper into the OneNote program. So I will share my screen here and we will go ahead and get started with today's content. Let me got multiple screens open, and what I'm going to show you today is not just OneNote 2016, but also how it compares to and how it looks similar to or different from the Office 365 version when you look at it online and the Windows 10 version. Because one of the things I have run into, I do my training almost exclusively with the OneNote 2016 version. And if you're only able to use Office 365 online version or the Windows 10 version, the functionality is not entirely the same. Some of the things are also in a different spot from a layout perspective. So I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of the landscape so you know when you look at your version what I'm talking about. So I prefer the OneNote 2016 version because it seems to have the most functionality. And if you are working from a Mac, it has a lot of the same functionality, but it is not identical either. So I am working from a PC and I am using the OneNote 2016 desktop application for today's demonstration. But as I said, I will also show you the other two just to kind of give you some perspective on it. So let me dig into this with you. So first of all, OneNote is a digital notebook application. And what that means is, just like you would use a spiral bound notebook or a 3-ring binder, you can use a digital notebook very similarly. So where you would have a dedicated notebook maybe for a class or a project, you can create a digital notebook for the same type of application. And within that digital notebook, you can also have sections, tabbed sections, or individual pages within each section. So you can actually replicate digitally a 3-ring notebook, which is what I absolutely love. If you've followed me for very long, you know I'm a procedures addict. And I love 3-ring binders for organizing things. So this really appealed to me, especially when I could do it digitally the same way and have my physical notebooks mirror my digital notebooks. So really, I like to think of it as a digital 3-ring binder. You can have multiple dividers to organize the notebook. Those dividers are sections, and you can put some of your sections into groups. And you can create multiple pages and subpages within each section. So you'll see over here on the far right, I'm going to actually turn on my little hand. So you can see over here on the far right, I am on the second page of this notebook and I have several other pages. And then to create a subpage, it's just an indented page that hangs underneath of the page above it. So you can do a subpage and a subpage of a subpage. So you can create a little bit of a hierarchical structure with your pages. So in OneNote, and this is OneNote 2016 on the screen currently, my notebooks show up over here on the left-hand side. And within each notebook, I can expand or collapse it to see the sections of my notebook. So these are like the tabbed dividers of my notebook. And then within each tabbed section, you can also see the tabs across the top. So I can click here to get to the introduction, or I can click over here. I can click here to get to the OneNote Tour, or I can click back over here on the side. So I can navigate either way. And then over here on the right-hand side is where the pages are. So each section has its own set of pages. And you can have as many pages as you want for each section. Just like with a procedures binder, I do encourage you to think about when it starts to get too long or too bulky, how you might want to condense it. Because for me, I like to be able to see the majority of what I'm looking at on a single screen. So sometimes that's one way to know kind of how to divide your notebook up for a little more efficient use. But let's look now at the differences between the 2016 desktop version and the Windows 10. And actually, I'm going to show you the Office 365 as well. So I'm going to minimize this down. I'm going to put it back at 75% over here. And then I am going to open the other screens that have the rest. Whoops, let me get to the right window here. Okay, so we have over here, so on the left is the Windows 2016 version, my desktop application that I started the demonstration from. On the top right, we have the Office 365 online version. And on the bottom, we have the OneNote for Windows 10 version. And I have the exact same notebook open in all three versions. So if I would go back to the introduction over here and click on the welcome page, you can see I am on the welcome page in all three documents. And if I change something in one of these notebooks, it will sync and update it in all three of the versions. So that is just one of the many examples of how OneNote can be used for collaboration and communication with your team and keeping track of who's doing what, especially when you turn on the history and you can keep track of who made the edits and on what date and what time. And that way you always know what the latest changes or updates are and who made them. But for the demo, so notebooks are on the left in 2016, pages are on the right, and I have my tab dividers across the top. In the Office 365 online version, my notebooks are on the far left again, but my sections expand below it, and then the pages expand in the column right next to it. So I'm going to maximize this for just a moment. So you can see I have some notebooks over here, and I can expand and look at multiple notebooks if I want to. My tabbed sections are over here, and my pages for those tab sections are in the column right next to it on the far left of your screen. So that is one of the differences between the online version and the desktop version. Now, if I were to look at the Windows 10 version, it's similar. My notebooks are all over here on the left-hand side. When I open them, I can see my tabbed sections here, and the pages within each tabbed section are here. Now, the other thing I want to point out is when you're in all three applications and you're comparing them side by side, you'll notice immediately that you don't have all of the same options on your ribbons in each application. OneNote 2016, based on my experience using this in all three versions so far, has the most functionality. So you don't get to do all of the exact same things in OneNote for Windows 10 as you can do in OneNote 2016. And you can even tell just by the number of options across the menu bar at the top that there's not as much functionality here. OneNote Online, or Office 365 version of OneNote Online, has a few more options. So it's a little more useful or helpful, in my opinion, than the Windows 10 version. But I will say this, if all you have access to is Windows 10, it is still worth trying. And the vast majority of what I'm going to show you today and what I'm going to show and demonstrate in the upcoming training during the month of May can all be done in all three versions. And same goes for the Mac. In some cases, there may be some extra customization things that you can't do as much of, but the vast majority of it you can do in some form. So those are the prime differences in how the three different OneNote versions look and how they feel. Now, one of the things you'll always hear me encourage you to do in every OneNote training I do, and that is pick a personal project or pick a work project that only you need access to for this as a starting point, and use that as a reason to create a OneNote notebook and start playing around with it. That's the best way to learn OneNote. And using this for a move that my husband and I made about 6 years ago was how I started my deep dive and love for OneNote. It became my go-to spot for keeping track of all of the moving parts, all of the details. It synced across all of my devices, so I could do work on my desktop computer at night, and then the next day I could go apartment shopping, or I could do more research about the area we were moving to, and it would automatically sync to my phone app and my iPad app, so that when I was out and about looking at apartments, I could simply just take pictures and add them to the pages as I was taking my doing my apartment hunting. So when I say I love OneNote, I honestly believe it could be, if you choose to use it, your one-stop shop for all sorts of reasons, both personal and professional. And some of the personal reasons that I have been using it, or that I've seen others using it, include recipe capture. I don't know about you, but I love getting on Facebook on the weekends and searching for some new recipes and finding a quick and easy way to just get them sorted and captured instead of just doing screenshots and saving it to my phone. OneNote is helping me solve that issue. Using it for health and wellness tracking or wish lists. I have a technology wish list that I have started, and using OneNote to keep track of all of that, because sometimes when my husband will be like, you know what, it would be fun to just kind of treat ourselves to something new and different, or to do something fun, I want to be able to quickly say, yes, and here's the thing I'm really looking for, instead of being like, what was that I was thinking about? For capturing ideas, for journaling, for doing research, even keeping your tax receipts and things organized. Basically, anything that you feel like you've got parts and pieces flying all over your desk, or parts and pieces saved in different spots on your phone or your tablet or your desktop computer, OneNote can help you bring them all together and collate it into one spot. So for professional purposes, event planning, meeting coordination, sending meeting invites through Outlook, and then sending the meeting minutes as a follow-up when that meeting is finished with action items included. There's some integrations with Outlook and OneNote that can work fabulously for helping you do that. For putting a minute-taking template together in advance of your meetings, so you're ready to just start dropping notes in as meetings are happening, and capturing the action items so that as soon as the meeting is done, you've got a rough draft of your minutes basically in place. All you have to do is some basic editing and you can send it quickly out. Project collaboration, travel planning, research projects, minute taking, expense reports, obviously administrative procedures. If those of you who have been around a while know that that is one of the very first applications that we put together and shared with assistants on our website through a template, which I'll show you a little more about here in just a moment. And I have heard countless assistants over the course of some of the training that I've been doing talking about how they're using OneNote to stay in sync with their executives. When they have their daily huddles with their executives, they have OneNote notebooks that they use to keep track of all of the moving parts. So what are the things they had questions on that they need to be following up with their executive about? They can create custom tags with their executive's name and do a custom tag search before they have their daily huddle, and quickly go through and get the answers and the responses to the things that they need help with, so that they can continue keeping the work moving forward. So there's all kinds of uses, just about anything that you can imagine or that you're struggling to keep the moving parts and the details organized on. OneNote can help you do that more efficiently. So let's take a little OneNote tour. What I want to do is just show you some applications that I have used or that I am familiar with, and give you just a kind of a 101 immersive into these are some of the ways it can be used and how it might look. Some of you may already have some of these things in place, and if so, or if you have other ideas for how to use it in addition to the ways I'm sharing today, please drop those in the comments. We would love to hear those. And part of what this Innovation Lab is created and designed for is for collaboration, for sharing ideas, sharing best practices, and helping others find new and better ways to do things in the same way that we want to find new and better ways to do things. So the way I'm doing it is not the only way to do it, and we would love to share other best practices that maybe work better for you, even if what I'm sharing isn't the way you're doing it exactly. So our Administrative Procedures Toolkit is a great example of an application for using OneNote. And you can, so what I'm going to do is actually open a different notebook. So now you see I linked to another notebook, and now I am suddenly down here in the Administrative Procedures Toolkit. And I actually want to go to the introduction, so I can either click over here on the left, or I can click up here on the top. And what we did for ours, partially because we're selling it as a template, but also I like my notebooks to kind of look like a formal notebook. So I put a cover on them. And then we had just a basic, here's how you get started with it, and then some of the templates that you may need to use for getting your procedures developed. Then under this tab, we actually created a table of contents. So you can just use the search function in OneNote to find what you're looking for. Or if you're like me, I still like a little bit of a visual overview, and I like to have a kind of that outline to follow. So we still, just like we do in our physical procedures binder, have kind of a general table of contents, and then the types of forms, templates, or procedures that are included are listed underneath of each section. And because we have them linked, we can quickly get to the facilities items that we might want to include or create procedures for. You can always click the little back arrow to go back to exactly where you were previously. If we wanted to look at expense reports, we can get there with one click from here. Or if we know exactly where we want to go, you can certainly click on the tab at the top and navigate to the specific spot. Now, what I like to do for procedures binders in particular is have all of my tabbed sections match my physical binder, so that when I'm creating something in the physical binder or I'm creating something in the digital binder, I put it in the other one as well, because I'm big on having a disaster recovery plan that does not include all paper or all digital. You need a hybrid or a combo of both. And what I love about having the first page of each section be, these are my brainstorm list of all of the items or procedures or templates that I want to include in this section. And with OneNote, what you can do on the insert, let's see, back over here on the home tab, you'll see tags. And one of the things that I will talk more about in the training coming up is how to use tags, both how they're created and given to you in the basic program, but then how you can customize them for exactly what you want them to look like. So if you have a certain executive that, if you're like me, I had 3 to 4 executives in most of my corporate positions that I was supporting at any given time. And I had them all color coded. One was purple, one was green. My stuff was always red. And I can create custom tags for each executive. So I can come in and things in my notebook that apply to a certain person, I can actually tag it for that person. And I can actually have it color code and or put a specific type of tag with it. And I can actually put more than one tag with it. So in this case, I could have it be a checkbox tag and I need to follow up with my executive on this tag. In this case, these are just the to-do tags. So once it's done, I can check it off and keep track of where I'm at in the process of creating my administrative procedures. So this is one particular use or application of OneNote that might be of interest to you. Another use is travel planning. So I mentioned earlier when my husband and I were researching a move to Indianapolis, I used OneNote to keep track of all of the details. And one of the first things that we did was create a list of criteria of what we needed for an apartment. So we were moving from a 2-level home in Iowa into an apartment in Indianapolis. And I knew that things were going to be tight for a while. So I had some specific criteria for what I needed for a home office, for what I needed or preferred for location. And so we put this very detailed list together. And then every place I looked at, I would add it to the top and I would fill in as much information based on the website research I could do first. And then when I got to the point where I couldn't figure out anything else from their website, I would call them, ask some more questions. And that was how I determined where I wanted to go and the apartments I wanted to look at. Because we live about 6.5 hours away from where we were moving to at the time, I went and stayed with one of my sisters. And over the course of 3 days, I looked at 10 to 12 different places, I believe. And so then I created an individual page for each place I was looking at. And I wrote down, I named the page with the day of the week and the number or the order in which I was going to look at them. And then when I was done, so because this synced to my phone and it synced to my iPad while I was out and about then, and I was taking pictures of all of these places, I was able to immediately insert those pictures onto the specific page for each place I looked at. Now, I was apartment hunting by myself. My husband was back in Iowa finishing up his responsibilities for the job he was finishing, and he was going to move about 2.5 weeks before I was. So I was apartment hunting, then I was going to go back, finish moving, packing us up, and he was going to get started doing his job. And so it was chaos. And OneNote truly helped us keep the chaos from turning into something that was unimaginable. So when I got home from that 4-day apartment hunting trip, I was able to take my husband on a virtual tour of every spot that I had looked at. And I was able to highlight and add to the notes sections of each of these what I thought the pros of each place were or the cons of each place were, and give him a virtual tour of every single place that I had looked at. And then, of course, we started looking at some houses to rent as well. So I started adding those down here at the bottom. And I was doing additional research on the area. And so I had maps, and then I created some basic to-do lists. We had our change of address list. There were some farewell parties and people that I wanted to send thank you notes to after the fact. So this became the hub for everything related to our move. And I could share this notebook with my husband, and he was able to access it from his computer and his devices as well. So there's another use or application. That was more of a personal one, but from a travel planning, or if you're organizing a corporate move, or if you're trying to keep track of all of the moving parts related to scheduling and keeping people coordinated with return to work programs or policies that you're trying to figure out post-COVID, this might be another application that you can consider there. Travel planning. So obviously the example I just showed you was related to a personal move, but travel planning is a huge use case for OneNote. And one of the blogs, and I'm not even sure if this post is still up, I'm glad I captured it when I did, but Susan Solo is a photographer, and she had a blog post a few years back that I captured here, talking about how she uses OneNote for travel. So you can see over here on the left, she has a different notebook for each major trip, which is one way you can do it. If your trips aren't as complicated, you could have one travel notebook with a section or a tabbed section for each trip. That's more of what I do at the moment. But with some of the bigger trips that I have taken, I can see where it would be more useful to potentially have a dedicated notebook just for that trip. So within each notebook, then she had her itinerary, flight info, excursions, driving details, resources, hotels, food, language, packing list, photo and video, and blog post. And because she's a blogger, she was obviously using this also from a work perspective. So that is another way you can think about creating or organizing your OneNote details. It looks like she also had road trips. So this was probably when she was driving, the road trip, packing, outfit ideas, things to purchase, things to do. So this is just another way to think about or consider using OneNote for travel planning, whether it's for yourself or for your executive. For me, when it comes to travel planning, this is more of the template I follow. I like to have one tabbed section that I rename for my upcoming trip. And then I like to, we use this as our template. So we copy and paste this tabbed section. So I can create, I can move or copy. And so if I copy this and rename it, then I don't have to recreate this structure every time. I have my template in place. And so then the first thing we do is come in and rename the title page to whatever the client name is, the city and state I'm traveling to, and the dates of travel. And then this is just kind of like that cover sheet overview, the client name, location, dates of travel, the date or time of the speaking engagement, my primary contact person's phone and email. And then this is a little checkbox set up, and you can add the date over here on the far right to when the air details have been confirmed, then we check it off. When car service has been reserved, we check it off. When the hotel has been booked, we check it off. So that at a glance, anytime I come to this page, without having to dig through the details, I can see immediately where we're at in the planning process for this trip. And of course, I do a lot of this myself. I have team members who help me with some of it. But for those of you who have executives that are a little less self-sufficient, then what you can do is either choose to share just certain aspects of your notebook with them, or send it to them digitally as a PDF or as a final, like if all they want is just the final trip itinerary, once you have this completed and filled out, you could just send them this page for getting along with what they need on their trip. I like to have access to all of the details just in case. So this trip itinerary is something I do for every single trip for myself and for executives that I have previously supported. So it's the template that we use. It's also a free template that we have on our free templates page on our website. So you can access that particular template if you're interested in finding something that might work better for you or that you want to insert in here for your own use. But then under each travel itinerary, I still like to keep the original emails that have my flight details, my ground transportation, and my hotel reservations. That way, just as a backup plan, in case something either got put on the itinerary wrong, or in case there was something that changed and I just needed more information for figuring out how to get a hold of my driver or whoever, I just wanted to be able to see that. So I prefer to have that level of detail visible here. And then the event details. You know, where is it at? What's happening? What type of event is it? If there were notes that I took from my introductory call with the team that I'm working with, those are the kinds of things we can add here. And then all of the prep that goes into preparing for the engagement, my presentation, any workbooks or handouts. Once they're done or once I have them started, I'll insert a link here so that I can get to them more quickly. And if I'm sharing this with a team member, they should be able to get to them more quickly as well because they're shared in our shared Dropbox area. If I've shipped books in advance or if I need to carry them with me, we can note that here. If there's specific speaking props that I want to take with me, we can add those here. This is just, again, another checklist type component to keep me on track for what I need to be paying attention to in preparing for the event. Then I typically have my assistant do some research on dining options within the hotel, if there is dining there, or within a block or two of the hotel, where there are gluten-free vegan restaurant options nearby. Of course, where are the Starbucks locations? And if possible, I like to know where the Whole Foods locations or the Trader Joe's locations are, because sometimes it's simpler for me with all of my food sensitivities to just go straight to the store instead of trying to find a place to eat. So this is where we do that research and we can add it here. Sightseeing options. Prior to COVID, I used to be big on seeing if I could grab a site or two while I was in an area I had never been to. So this would be some place where we would drop in those details. Emergency contact details. I like to have a separate spot where all of the key people I need to be able to get a hold of, team members first and foremost, but also the people related to the event I'm speaking for, as well as anybody related to my travel agent, my car service, any of those key numbers I want on an emergency contact page by themselves. And then keeping track of travel receipts. So whether that's just putting a little checklist here so that you remember all the things you need to gather together to get that expense report put together, or what I like to do is insert an actual subpage with the individual receipts as I collect them. And that way, this is a spot that I can quickly go back to and pull my receipts together when I'm putting my expense report together or my invoice for my client. And then we use Teamwork for all of our project management. So I like to I still want to use Teamwork as my primary project tool. And then OneNote is kind of a supplement to like where I go and do the work or keep track of all the other parts and pieces. So Teamwork has a template or a task list template component. And what I did was I just printed out what that task list looked like. And that way I still have it kind of as a visual, and my team has it as a visual in this notebook in case we quickly just want to refer to it. Did we check all the boxes? We would need to go into Teamwork to make sure, but this gives us that visual here as well. And I could technically link directly to that Teamwork task list, but for today's demo purposes, I wanted to be able to just show you right here in the notebook. And then any other travel research that you may have done in preparing for the event can be, if you have a template or a checklist that you use for that, you can insert it right here and keep track of your research here. I recommend a traveler profile for every traveler you support. You can create those and keep them right in the notebook with your traveler's details. I am huge on packing lists. I did not include my personal one in here because I didn't want to share all of the personal details about what I pack for my own suitcase, but my technology items and my speaking items for sure I've got included here. And if I were the only one using this notebook, I would probably also include my personal packing list as well. And then for international travel, there's other things that I have to consider. And so this is my additional items for the international components. And in the US, there is a program called the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It's through the State Department, and it's a free service that allows US citizens who are traveling or living abroad to receive the latest security updates from the nearest US embassy or consulate while you're traveling. And I started doing this, I think back in 2017, even when I was traveling just in North America. I now go in and I register to make sure that they know where I'm going, where I'm going to be, who my contact points are, just in case things change too quickly. And I think the past 12 months have proven that for all of us. So this is something, if you haven't ever looked at this before for travel for your executives, I encourage you to explore this as something that might be a best practice to implement going forward also. And then depending on where I'm headed, if there's any travel advisory or health related things that I need to know about, doing some research on that. So this is one template. Like I said, this is more of the template I follow. There's another template that I can't remember. I think this was one of the participants in one of our workshops who shared this with me, but this is kind of how she keeps her executives organized. So any of the travel confirmations, and she says she puts her American Express travel confirmation printout here. And then if there's an agenda for the meeting, so this is like, say it's an executive field visit, the city, you know, when it happens, dress code, travel dates, the actual agenda for the events, the travel details, however you prefer to have that organized can be there. And then each particular day, if there's specific prep for the various meetings that are being held, then she includes that under that date and then specific details for what that meeting is about. And then this is a great one too, Wi-Fi code for guests. So this is, again, just another use case. You can create and customize and do this however it works best for you. Again, one of the awesome things about using OneNote. Now, project management is also a big use case for OneNote. And this is one of those that, because I use a project management tool, I have not used OneNote as specifically for project management. However, I have come across some great resources. And even within OneNote itself, there are a lot of templates that they have to help you just as a starting point to start thinking about how you could organize your project notebook. So creating your project overview. They have several different templates for simple meeting minutes if you want to make them fancier looking than just a plain white sheet of paper. They've got informal meeting note templates, personal meeting notes, detailed meeting notes. I just dropped these all in here because I like looking at them sometimes just for ideas. But you can also then create your project to-do lists. You can start to use custom tags then, like I mentioned earlier, for prioritizing or for tagging specific people, and then creating some of the follow-up that's required and the communications required for that particular project. Now, one of the sites that I just came across, I think it's this one here, it's called theprivateattic.com, and she has a post on how to, let me move this to the other screen here quick, how to use OneNote for project management. And this is an awesome post. Again, theprivateattic.com, and it's a post from actually just a few days ago. So it should be on the front of her blog, I would think. So taking a look at using it from a file sharing portal perspective for circulating your meeting notes, taking the notes and circulating them, sharing resources with your team, using the Kanban board application, and then using it as more of like a project manager workstation for tracking all of those parts and pieces. And they also have some pre-made templates that you can explore. So I wanted to share that just because it's a resource that I think is a good one from what I've discovered on their site so far. For those of you who just participated last week in our 5-day challenge for developing your career plan, you saw me demo and talk about the Your Career Plan OneNote notebook. So this is an actual template that we also sell on our site, but this was designed with the purpose of helping you keep track of your annual goals and the progress towards completing them. So if I click over here to the My Career Plan notebook, the first one is, again, I just create a cover for it. And then I have a little article in here on how to create a strategic administrative career plan, and then some free templates that we have on our website that we also include here for easy access. And so the 3 parts of a career plan include looking at where you are now, where you're going, and how you're going to get to where you want to go next. And you'll notice in each one of these, there's different pages for the various aspects of things you might want to look at or include in your career plan notebook. And then once you get clear on where you're going and how you're going to get there, you can actually map out your full plan and the objectives and the specific action items and the targeted completion dates, and use this as a way of tracking your progress over the course of the year, or maybe the quarter, or each 6-month period, however the best time frame for follow-up and tracking works for you. And then I like to always have an ideas for next year. When I do my strategic planning with myself in 6 months or 12 months from now, what are some of the other things I wanted to research or look at, but just don't have the time for right now, or know now is not the best time for me to pursue, but want to figure out when I can work that in. And then we also have a tab for annual performance review. And I know a lot of you think about annual performance reviews not in the most positive light, but I believe when you have a process in place like this and you're preparing for them and you're tracking your accomplishments throughout the year, it is an entirely different experience for most people when they take this approach. So this is a great example of a personal application of OneNote that you could start right now. Whether you use our template or you just create your own for capturing some of these important things and keeping track of past performance reviews and past goals that you've accomplished and current things that you want to be tracking toward in the year ahead, this is a great way to learn how to use OneNote and to get comfortable with the functionality and to create some custom tags and to play around with them and figure out how it works so that you're really comfortable with it when you then take it to the office and apply it to a work project that you want to introduce to the team. And then there are a few other sites. MakeUseOf.com has some Microsoft OneNote templates that you can download. And OneNoteGem.com also has some templates. So I just want to throw that out there quick, because if you're like me, I like to look at other people's things to get some ideas for how I might want to do it. And some of these other resources, which I can share in the comments after today's video, might be fun ones to take a look at as well. So if you're curious about how you can get more comfortable with learning OneNote or taking advantage of some of the cool things I've shared today, what I would like to do is invite you to the upcoming 3-part series that I'll be doing during the month of May. Now, 2 things. First of all, if you are currently an Admin Pro Training VIP Pass member, you automatically get to participate. And we will send you an email. Watch your inbox probably later today or first thing tomorrow morning for details on how you can get the links to participate. Because if you're a VIP Pass member, all of the training we do is already included in your membership. If you're not a VIP Pass member, we would love to have you. What the Training Pass is access to all of the training we offer at one annual rate each year. So you pay $475 once for the year. It's an annual recurring membership. And then you have access to all of our courses, all of our 5-day challenges, all of our training on demand webinars. I think there's over 60 webinars in that library now. Plus anything new that we add, you automatically get to participate in as well. Or if you prefer to just try us out one at a time first, that works too. And what we're going to do in May is offer, let me scroll down here if this page will go for me. There we go. 3 specific sessions on OneNote 2016. So on May 12th, we are doing the Getting Started Using OneNote 2016. And this one will dig into just the fundamentals of OneNote. So over here on the intro tab, there were some things I didn't go through today. So OneNote Fundamentals, talking about where to save things. On the features section, we'll look at how to create a notebook. We will look at how to set up and organize your notebooks. We'll look at how to create templates, do custom tagging, create custom tags, use the tags that are already there. We'll look at how to do search and use some of the history functions. And then we'll also dig into looking at how to use some of the different things you'll find on the various ribbons, specifically how to insert printouts, file attachments, or actual documents or links to documents, depending on where they're stored and saved and how you want to use them. So that is the Getting Started Using OneNote on May 12th. On May 19th, the following Wednesday, we will be doing sharing, collaborating, and using key functions in OneNote 2016. So that's where we're going to get into looking at some of the more advanced components of sharing a notebook and how that works, the actual how you create page templates. So the example I typically use is with office procedures. If you would like to create a template that is consistent from page to page within your OneNote notebook, just like it is within your printed notebook, then you can actually create a template here and create your new procedures pages based on that template. You can do the same thing for meeting minutes or for travel itineraries. So we'll look at how to use the create a page template based on some of the common things that you use over and over again. And then we'll look at, I guess actually the second session is when we look at search history using the OneNote Clipper. So you can install the OneNote Clipper in your browser toolbar so that when you're on a page of a website or when you are looking at something on your screen, you can quickly capture either a screenshot or the actual text, or if you're on a web page, you can actually capture the whole web page and send it to a page in your OneNote notebook so that you have it for reference or for follow-up later. Thankfully, that's what I did with that Susan Solo's blog post, because I'm not sure the blog post is still up anymore. But I have captured it, and I actually have the original link it used to live at, even if it's no longer there today. And then we're going to look at reviewing and setting up your default save locations. So one of the things for me when I'm using a new tool that gets frustrating is not knowing where things are going when I save them or when I put something in there. And so I like to take you through all of the, okay, here's the back end. Here's where this is saving to, and here's what that means. And here are some of the best practices that I've found for setting this up so that you can find things again later if you need to go looking for them in a more manual way. And then setting up quick notes. And that's one of those fun little features where if I do the Windows N key, oops, it put it on my other screen. Let me move it over here. I can quickly create sticky notes digitally. And just by doing the Windows N, and then when I have it saved, I just X out. And over here in my sticky notes section, because this is where I have designated all of my sticky notes to be saved, it keeps them here. So I can quickly do little sticky notes that get captured digitally and keep them here for quick and easy reference. And when I have them done or handled, I can delete them and get rid of them. So that's another fun feature that we'll talk about in the second session on May 19th. The third session is integrating OneNote 2016 with other Office Suite programs. So using OneNote with Outlook, using it with Word, PowerPoint, and even Excel. And then the printing aspect. There's been a lot of questions we've had in our Facebook group on printing to OneNote or from OneNote. So we'll look at that a little bit. And then we'll look at handwritten notes and OCR, reading OCR or text on images with the OCR function in OneNote. That can be helpful depending on the type of application you might be needing to use OneNote for in addition. So This particular series is a series that you do need to pay and register for. Each session is $97 each, or you can get all 3 sessions for $97, or I'm sorry, for $197. So $97 each, or all 3 for $197. So it's like getting one for free if you buy the package. You can just purchase the one you need, or if you want to do all of them, then certainly the package deal is the best option. In addition, we have a Facebook group specifically for OneNote. This has become a great resource for all things OneNote, to share ideas, to get help on a specific question. And a lot of people who have found this group are good about sharing resources with us that they have come across in addition. So we invite you to join us for the OneNote training series. And what I'd like to do now, since we have, I think we're up on time, so the bulk of the training is complete for today. But if you have questions, I want to make sure I take a few minutes to answer those. Okay, so there's a note here that someone had been using Evernote for years and is interested in seeing if it's compatible. I also have an Evernote account, and they have similarities. Functionality, I would say, is comparable, but how it integrates with the Office suite is one of the things where I struggled. I am a Microsoft Office user exclusively, and so I like OneNote because it easily integrates with all of the things about the Office suite that I am used to and familiar with. So that is one of the basic things that I have come across that I do find more helpful about OneNote versus Evernote. The other thing is, because OneNote can be downloaded as a desktop application in the OneNote 2016 version, I am not internet dependent to access my stuff. So if I'm without power or I'm in a hotel room and I don't want to be on free Wi-Fi, I can still get to my OneNote notebooks and the information in them without having to have an internet access. And with Evernote, I needed to be connected to the internet. A question about the video being viewed again later. We will leave the video up for a week. So you've got 7 days basically to watch the replay, and then it will be taken out of the group, and we'll probably just have it in our online training center after that. So you've got a few days to watch it, or if you have friends or colleagues that you would like to get watching it also, have them join the Innovation Lab group and they can watch it here. Lots of great uses that all of you are sharing in the chat. Thanks for doing that today. What's the difference in OneDrive and OneNote? OneDrive is where you store your OneNote notebooks. So OneDrive is like Google Drive or Dropbox or even like your hard drive, except that it's a cloud-based, and it's the Microsoft cloud-based file storage location. So OneDrive is a folder storage location for your files. OneNote is for your notebooks, and ideally you can store them on your hard drive also, but for the most functionality in sharing, storing a OneNote notebook on OneDrive is the most optimal. And we'll talk more about that in the first session that we do next week. Okay, let me keep scrolling here. Excellent comments. You guys are doing awesome with all your OneNote use already. There is not a handout for today's session, but there will be some pretty detailed workbooks for the 3 sessions that we do coming up throughout May. So today's session did not have a handout, but we will follow up with some links in the chat if we haven't already. And if you have specific questions as you watch the replay, you're welcome to add those, and we'll try to answer as many of those as we can do so with. Let's see. Okay. I think I've gotten most of, good question. Can OneNote be hacked? Anything can be hacked. If you are on the web and you choose to engage in any way, anything can be hacked. So there are some things you can do to lock some things down, but ultimately, and that's one of the reasons why OneNote recommends using their notebooks or sharing their notebooks from OneDrive, because you do have more security functionality available to you. However, in this day and age, even I think it's Experian, the big credit processor, who had double factor authentication and all these things in place for putting people's credit freezes in place. That even got hacked this past week, and people were able to get past that and unfreeze people's credit freezes. So you just have to realize when you choose to be online in any capacity in this day and age, there is risk involved, and do the best you can to keep it as secure as possible and to be as diligent and discreet as possible. But depending on who you're sharing with, if you think they are a risk factor, then that's something you need to factor in before sharing your notebooks with them. Someone asked about finding the amount of space available in notebooks or pages. I will have to look into that because that's not something I am familiar with. As far as I know, you've got plenty of space and plenty of room. But my husband also uses this as in a more advanced way even than I have for a lot of the legal work that he does. So I will check with him as well because his notebooks are massive and he's got entire departments using them. So I'll get some feedback on that and we will see if we can get a more specific answer on that. How do you connect OneNote notebook created in Windows to a MacBook Air? The best way that I know, based on what I have run into so far with people using my templates, is you need to have the notebook saved to OneDrive or saved to a spot that you can get to from your Mac, I believe. And so save it from your Windows application to that file location, and then open it in OneNote on your Mac. And it should work. And if it doesn't work in whatever location you're trying it, try doing it from a OneDrive location, because we've run into that issue with people who download our templates. What we recommend is if you're buying templates from us, that you download and install them using a PC and then open them from your Mac for using them. That was one of the things, that is one of the downfalls or the more frustrating points for me with OneNote is the issues I've had with my team. Half of my team are MacBook or Mac users, half of us are PC users. And so a lot of the stuff I do runs into some snags occasionally, either with syncing or with how people can see or access stuff when we're doing across the Mac PC divide. And also then the functionality isn't fully the same in those either. So how do I pin the notebooks to the left? Mine is not pinned right now. Great question, Mary. We'll do it here. Okay, so up here on the far left, I have my notebooks, and you see this little push pin, and I will undo it so that you can see what it looks like unpinned. And then when I drop down, I can choose a notebook to open, but I want to pin that pane. So I'm going to push this little notebook pane or pin it. And now all of my notebooks are pinned to the left-hand side. Is OneNote 2016 available for iPhone sync? Mine only shows up as OneNote 10. I sync with my phone and I don't have any issues. And I'd have to look on my phone to see what it says I'm using there, but I just downloaded the OneNote Office Suite app and I can open the notebook, whether I'm using OneNote 2016 is what I primarily use, and I can open them there. So I'm assuming so, but we could troubleshoot that further if we need to. All right, a lot of these other questions I think I've covered, and if not, I will scroll through a little bit later here and make sure I hit them all. But I also want to let you know that a lot of these are things that we will dig deeper into during the upcoming courses on the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. Get my dates right here. So I would love to have all of you who are interested participate in those individual sessions. We'll have more time to go deeper and to actually do demos into how to do the various things that I'm going to show you and talk about so that you can see it and practice it. And if you have questions, you can ask them live while we're together on those training webinars. So that will get started next Wednesday. We will follow up with details here in the group. But if you are not already on our mailing list, I encourage you to go to allthingsadmin.com/newsletters and get subscribed so that you're getting our regular updates, because we have a summer full of additional training and resources that we're going to be creating and sharing with you. And we don't want any of you to miss that if you're interested in staying connected with the resources that we're sharing here. So thank you for participating in today's live stream event. I look forward to seeing many of you next week in our OneNote training online. And I look forward to sharing my love of OneNote 2016 with all of you and helping you advance your skills for the 21st century office. Have a great day, everyone.